Today's topic, a live case study on a question of, am I saving enough? This question came in from one of our Wealth Kill weekly readers. They put it into our Google form. I got it. I loved it. I'm here now recording for it. And the question is, and I'm actually going to get into a very fun example today where I will turn off this camera per se and switch over to a screen share and then walk you through a live example of, am I saving enough? And here's the gist of it. This is a locum tenens physician, and ultimately their goal is to keep it simple. And right now the question is, and I'll share this question with you here once we get into the video, is can I just only do my solo K? If I just maxed out every year, how do I look? Am I on track? Am I not on track? I realize, there's a lot of moving parts here, and they even noted this, but is this crazy to think this? And I love this question because when we get these types of questions, I know that they're not the only one asking this. I know so many are asking, and this is a question we get all the time too. So this will give us a chance to dig into the question, but also then walk through a live case study where I'm going to share my screen. We'll go through a little bit of Excel work here, and then I'll also add in some closing notes where I'll bring it right back to this video. So get ready for our first ever case study coming live to you on YouTube. Stay tuned. That's all coming up next. Okay, and we are officially live from my computer. So first thing I want to show you, the question. I also want to take this opportunity to show you that we do read all the questions that come in. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can drop us a comment. We read those comments to get ideas for future videos. If you are a reader of the Wealth Kill Weekly, we put a Google form in there. That is where this question came from. That's actually where a lot of our questions come from because that is a pretty large email list. And that gives us plenty of ideas to keep this going. But if you're watching this, you have a question, drop us a line. We want to put you up here next. So here is the main question. In this format, I will look down a little bit more than usual. You know that I always love to give you great eye contact on YouTube, but for this one, I will bounce down a little bit more. So first and foremost, here's the question. All right, so locum tenens physician. I love locum tenens physicians. I always say it's a perfect combination for me because yes, physician, my favorite group to work with, but then also gives me really that business owner side. So it's two of my favorite things all in one. So locum tenens physician, want to max out the solo K. Seems like this person has been doing that. But the main question is, if I only do that year in and year out, will I be okay? And I know I noted this in the intro. We don't have enough detail in this case study to tell you like, hey, you're going to be just fine. So we're going to work it backwards here to give you some ideas. The main takeaway should be, are we on track? Are we not on track? Anytime we build a financial plan, it literally takes us about 2 months to build. So you can imagine one paragraph is not going to give us all the information we need, but we can at least give some ideas here, right? Are we trending in the right direction? Are we nowhere close? And that's really what I want to build on this video. And I'm also going to use one of our more popular Excel spreadsheets, which is also available for free in our blog post on Will I Have Enough to Retire? We'll also put a link in the show notes below so you can find that. But goal is to keep it simple, avoid the taxable accounts, avoid the backdoor Roth IRAs, things of that nature, and just only pump money into the solo K. If the solo K is a new term for you, the nice thing about the solo K is though, you can really crank away some money into it. You can see they put the numbers in here, right? 2022 was 61,000, 2023 is 66,000. I think we get close to 70,000 for 2024. So it's a big number. It's not like just your 22,500. Because not only does it include the employee contribution, but it also includes the employer contribution. So I'm going to keep this funneling right through. I'm not going to do any pauses here. So there might be a little bit more fumbling in this video than usual, but here's what I want to work with. Let's just call it the 66,000 for 2023. This is the chart that I initially built for a conference, a speaking engagement when I was down in Nashville for colon and rectal surgeons. It was actually my first big presentation. I was nervous as all heck. And I had the simple topic of, hey, can you present on giving them a good number to retire on? Which is impossible, let alone with a room full of surgeons. But here's what I worked up. It's not perfect. There are some moving parts to it. Again, this is a free resource. I'll include the blog where you can actually go in and take this Excel sheet for yourself. So after you watch this video, you can manipulate it. You can do your own things. But what I like to do is, I think one of the easiest ways to always use this broader question is spending multiple. The common number is 30. So what it says is, if you're going to spend, in this example, $150,000 per year, you want to try to have a 30 multiple of that when you retire. So in this example, ends up being $4.5 million. That does not answer the question, right? And there's just some assumptions here. So over on this right side, I put a rate of return of 6. So this is saying, hey, over our time, we think that we can average a 6% rate of return. I like to use conservative numbers. I hope that is a conservative number. I'm using an inflation number of 3. You could argue both of these numbers are low, but I'm not here to argue that point. You can go make them whatever you want. And then it gives us a real return of 3. But if we come back to the initial question from our reader, that's what we want to work with. So to hit 4.5 million at retirement, and we don't really care what retirement age is. It's 65, 55. The key is we want to see how much runway we're going to have there, right? If we're trying to hit that number, it will vary based on that, right? If you're going for retirement at 55 compared to 65, your number is going to change. And I'd say the earlier you're moving for financial independence, your spending multiple should be higher. So we're using 30. Let's assume that this is probably like your traditional retirement, like mid 60s or so. And then the important question comes in on the other side, and I call this our runway. And runway is just trying to say, how much do you need to be saving, getting those rates that we noted, to get close to this 4.5. And I've always liked the runway conversation because in particular with physicians, this can vary, right? Depending on how long your training was. We have a lot of physicians that will finish up their training, but then they go right into like intense student loan payments. So they're not really saving either. But the sooner you get started, the easier this is. Stop me if you've heard this story before, but it's called compounding interest. If we come back to the idea of $66,000, the individual that sent us this question, if they can sit there and say, you know what, $150,000 per year sounds good, and we're keeping this broad, right? Like you still have taxes. Now, what if you have $4.5 million in a Roth IRA? Oh, good for you, because we're not going to be too worried about taxes. We don't have pensions built in. We don't have Social Security built in. This is just straightforward. How much did you save? Did you build up on your own? And even in our financial plans, we actually don't even put in Social Security. Maybe it's there, maybe it's not, but my clients sure as heck aren't going to rely on it. Maybe it's all IRA money. If it's all IRA money, well, we have a little bit of a tax problem on our hands, right? Because every dollar is going to get taxed. So if you have 4.5, knock off 30% of that, 25% of that, because we're going to have some issues there, not even bringing in what the RMD freight train that's also coming down the track. So we're going to keep it simple. We're not going to get too complicated. But in this example, pretty much our note would be, if you say 150 is your magical number, now with the inflation over here, right, we're trying to think future as well, you should be saving around $57,000 per year. Now, if this individual is cranking away $66,000, they're in a pretty good spot. Now, they're not over by a ton. They've got about $10,000 of wiggle room, assuming this 30-year runway. Now, if they are a 40-year runway, right? So let's just say they became an attending physician at 30 years old, and they're saying, hey, I'm doing this until 70. I feel good. I'm going for it. Obviously, life will dictate that for us. But in that example, heck, we got a good margin here. The number is actually a little bit lower. Now, let's just say they got a later start. I know that's not the case just based on the notes they put in there. I guess technically I don't know their age, but shorter runway, we're in trouble here, right? 66,000 is not going to cut it, right? It's not going to cut it. Now, let's build on this, right? So 150, again, working with physicians, I think part of that is going to be we are used to seeing a little bit higher lifestyle, not in like keeping up with the Joneses, but $150,000, $200,000 per year is not a crazy number. So let's mess around a little bit, right? So let's say 200,000. All right, so in this example, magical number is now 6 million. Now, all of a sudden, $66,000 is not our sweet spot anymore. We are now underdoing it if we're doing this 30-year runway. So we're in a tough spot there. 20-year runway, we're off by like 100 grand. 40-year runway, we're still in a good spot. So you can see when you get started is really important. For this question in particular, I know the goal is to keep it simple, and they possibly could keep it simple. And if that spending number is lower, that 150, but let's even say 100,000, you're really in a good spot. Let's call it like a sweet spot here of about 40,000, and you're at 66. You might not have to do anything else crazy, right? That could be a good spot for you. Now, the one thing I would note about the solo K, let's just say we're doing all that pre-tax. I do have a concern there that everything is pre-tax dollars. At some point, they need to work on some Roth conversions, more than likely the year that they probably retire, between when those RMDs start, plan to do some Roth conversions, because we have a sitting time bomb there in terms of taxes with an unknown tax bill. So if anything, that would be my argument on why you should be doing a backdoor Roth. And that's why I actually think backdoor Roth IRAs are so appealing. This $6,500, $7,000 next year is not this magical formula. Now, it's very powerful. You do that year in, year out. But my bigger thing is it gives us an after-tax, a tax-free bucket that we can go to. So that's why I really love the backdoor Roth. So my concern there would be if we're only doing the solo K and everything is pre-tax contribution, no Roth, we have a little bit of a tax issue there kind of peeking its eye towards us. But the higher this spending number is, all of a sudden we are off track. Now we're really off track. Again, this is a free resource. Anyone watching this video will be able to get this. They'll be able to add in their own numbers and work with it. So main takeaway here is my favorite answer in all of finance is it depends. It depends. Again, this is not perfect. Financial plans for us take 2 months. We're reading, a few sentences and trying to give you an idea. But in some circumstances, could just the solo K be enough? It could be. Again, I'm going to put the note in there. I'm a little bit concerned of only doing pre-tax savings. That's why I love the backdoor Roth. I also love the individual account in there. If you're doing really good on that 1099 income, don't forget about something called a defined benefit plan. Now, this goes the exact opposite way of what you were trying to do with keeping it simple. But, a cash balance plan can be really powerful when you have high 1099 income. Moral of the story is it depends, but take this worksheet, build it out, make it your own, change the numbers. The main thing you got to think through is, how much do I need to live off of in retirement? I know that can be a really hard question the earlier we are in our accumulator years, but just having an idea of where you're going to be can be really helpful to see if you're on track or off track. And there you have it. Do you have enough to retire by just maxing out your solo K? That was really fun. I'll see how this video ends up doing. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, drop me a note in the comments because I think the case study is one thing that I've always loved, but it takes specific questions to really take advantage of that. But now that we have the proper camera setup that we can kind of build that in utilizing Loom as well, that could be a fun one to build some more videos off of. So if you enjoyed this, let us know. If you have questions of your own, let us know. But again, more of the story, it depends. It really depends on so many factors. But most importantly is, what's your desired spending level in retirement? And then we can at least work it back to get a better idea of what that could look like. As always, thanks for hanging out with me for the last 15 minutes or so. If you love this video and all of our fantastic videos, please subscribe to the channel. You can do that here. And if you want to get a notification every time we release a new video, you can add an extra layer to that by clicking on this bell icon, and that'll give you a notification every time we release a new video. Again, thanks for hanging out with me, and I will catch you on the next video.